Welcome to the Tough Decisions Network. This is our special Saturday edition called Step Up Your Game with Dan. I'm your host, Dan Hanford, and I'll be discussing topics to help you make better decisions to increase your productivity, increase your sales, and improve your overall marketing. Visit toughdecisions.net to sign up for our free weekly entrepreneur email. Before we get started, let's hear from one of our sponsors. Have you ever thought about investing in real estate, but find yourself so busy that you don't have time for it? Do you have FOMO, which is the fear of missing out? At HanfordCapital.com, we help investors with passive real estate investments that project better returns than traditional investment vehicles such as the stock market. If you'd like to find out more about our passive real estate investments, visit HanfordCapital.com. That's HANDFORD Capital.com. We will jump on a call with you to discuss your investment goals and to see if our investments are a good fit for you. This advertisement is not to be construed as an offer or recommendation to buy or sell a security. Visit HanfordCapital.com. On the podcast with us today is Mariana Ruiz. Mariana, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Mariana, this episode, as we've talked about in the green room, is all about how to increase sales, productivity, and or marketing. This is our Saturday show called Step Up Your Game with Dan. And I want you to get us started because I'm really looking forward to kind of diving into what you're going to be sharing with us about how to have an impact with your coaching program in a different way than more of your one-on-one and other pieces of this. But give the listeners a little bit more about you and your background and where your current focus is right now as an entrepreneur.
Well, I've always been kind of like an entrepreneur at heart, and my parents were both university professors, so I was really like pushed to go that route instead. So I became a nurse, and my first job out of nursing school was in the neuro ICU, and I climbed up the corporate ladder because my body just did not enjoy that night shift and lifting all these very heavy patients. So I climbed up the corporate ladder and I was about to oversee 3 hospitals in Texas when my preemie daughter was born at 2 pounds. Luckily at that time, my entrepreneurial bug had been going on and working in the background, and I already had a coaching business. And so I just leaned into that and made that, cover our expenses and really get us through that time. And eventually mom started asking me hey, how are you doing this? What are you doing? How do you get any work done with 2 kids at home? And I started doing business coaching after that. So initially I was a health coach because that was my background, So yeah, here we are. And now I help people to create, launch, and scale 6-figure group programs.
Sometimes people, when they hear about coaching, they look at this and they go, that would be really nice for me to be able to do. What would you say to somebody that's maybe on the fence or maybe not sure about whether or not they should have their own coaching program?
Yeah, I feel like it's such a loving thing that we can do is teach one and also hold them accountable to what they really want in their life. So if you are somebody who's been able to do anything and you are wow, this was something that I'm really grateful that I did or that I achieved, definitely look at coaching and really look at going all in with that. There are certifications and things you can get, which I think are great for me, it was more for the confidence than anything and the skill set to be able to handle those difficult conversations sometimes. But definitely look at that because the difference you can make in someone's life is so beautiful. And it's unlike nursing really for me, because nursing was healing someone when they were sick, but coaching is more like helping somebody perform at their highest level and really hold them accountable to top performance.
And I know coaching is one of those things that, people can do as far as general business coaching, or in your situation, you did very specific health and wellness coaching. And, there's other people that have other businesses. I was actually just consulting with somebody this past weekend, and they have a physical, not a physical therapy, but a personal training business. And, this person had learned how to basically come out of a gym setting and come up with their own, in the garage, home-based, personal training business. And she's been able to, scale that to a point where it was profitable, but she still was able to do it at home and didn't have to share their profits with the gym and all that kind of stuff. And I told her, I said, well, what you need to do is you need to put together a training program and a coaching program to be able to help other personal trainers that are in that same position to be able to do something like that. And that's really where they can have that major impact and really scale by using other people to help them do what they're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's so much opportunity around it.
Well, let me ask you this question. So obviously there's different types of models as far as how you can set up a coaching program. What have you found are some of the different steps that somebody could take to be able to put together and implement a program and a coaching system that would help them be able to scale it? Because obviously when you talk about, coaching, a lot of people think, one-on-one. And obviously, when you do one-on-one, you're limiting how much you can actually scale that, and you're limiting the number of people that you can actually help. So what are some different strategies and things that you've learned that you can share with us that can help us increase that impact and that profit that we're looking for?
Yeah. So when I started, I definitely started with one-on-one because, like you said, it's easy. You can set it up, like literally just come up with the idea and go sell it. So that's awesome. And I did find, and so this is also a testament to how much you can grow so quickly. So within 7 months of starting my business coaching business, I was completely sold out with 15 one-on-one clients and making $15,000 a month. So it blew up very quickly. And I felt like I was, duct taped to a chair and like my phone and just way too overstressed. I ended up learning in that experience is that you need to also think about not just that short-term income that you can bring with one-on-one, but also how can you start to leverage the work you're doing during that one-on-one time to create your own methodology that you will turn into either a course or a group program and be able to serve more clients in a leveraged way.
And how would you do that? Because obviously it sounds great, but how would you leverage it to be able to make it so that you're not getting so stressed out?
Yeah. What I started doing with all my clients is just writing down everything we were working on. So in the beginning, because I was helping mostly mom entrepreneurs who were starting their businesses, I was like serving people in all different industries. And I thought there's no way I can scale this because it's not like just, 1, 2, 3. Some of my moms were coming in with, like wanting to do, like I had a client that did potty training coaching, which is a beautiful gift if you've ever had to potty train a child.
I'm in the process of doing that right now, Mariana.
Right? And all the way to like, authors or, people wanting to, consult on Amazon businesses, right? So I had people from very different industries and I thought, there's no way I can streamline this. So what I started doing is just writing notes after every session about what they were going through and what, the plan was and their next steps and like really just detailed notes. And then I started to see some patterns. And I categorized it into basically these 3 buckets that they would have to go through, these 3 kind of like phases or pillars, if you will. And that's how I developed my first group program, using those 3 phases to help people to set up their business.
And so let's dive into a little bit more about the taking notes. I think that's a really important thing because not only does it allow you in just the one-on-one and the group coaching, but with the taking the notes, I think is important for the person paying you for that coaching so that the next time that you talk to them, you can reference those notes and almost makes it sound like you remembered the conversation from before, even though you've talked to 15 other clients since then and you have no clue really what it was, but you took notes. So I think it's very important for organizing your brain too.
Absolutely. And keeping track of all those details that help them feel like, oh my gosh, she really, like that person really understood me and remembered details about my life, right? Like simple things like husband's name, like that kind of stuff, right? Like the things that do matter to them and are important for you to know. Now that was for the personal side, but also for the methodology. Like that was important because without the notes, sometimes you forget where they were before or they forget, right? So sometimes, especially for us high achievers, like we want to do the next thing and the next thing. We're like, did we really do anything? And it's like, oh yeah, I remember when I had that problem and I thought the world was ending, right?
Oh
So,
yeah, and I think it also kind of plays along the same lines of just meetings in general, where people do meetings in the corporate world, and they have a meeting, they decide to do something, but nobody writes it down, nobody takes notes, nobody does anything, and then the next meeting comes along, it's like, hey, did anybody do this? And it's like, no, I remember talking about it, but nobody actually did anything. So I think that also helps too from their perspective to make sure that they are actually doing and the things that are set into place during that phone call.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about these three buckets, because you mentioned these three buckets and how it kind of helped you develop the methodology. What were those three buckets?
Yeah, so it's attract. So you want to really grow kind of like an audience. And then the second bucket was connect, right? So you want to make deep connections with that audience, with the members in the audience, with the specific individuals in the audience. And then the last one was convert, which is actually offering them a solution, right? So that was the first, very rough, like these are the three things that need to happen for you to get some sales in the door, for you to start seeing some progress, especially when you're just starting out.
So somebody that's just starting out, how kind of niche down should they be with their coaching?
Oh my gosh. I just talked about this in one of my group calls. So you want to be very specific. And the way that I think about it is like, you want to be referable. So if I have a cousin that's having the problem and is the person that you help, that I can say, oh yeah, my cousin Carrie can really work with you. And that's how I think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think some people sometimes, though, get to the point of being too niched down, which you don't want to be too niched down, which I know some people would say, well, you can never be too niched. I'm like, well, you can, because there might not be, like when you're doing potty training for boys that have blue eyes with brown hair. I mean, you can get really niched down where it might be a little bit too niche, but I think like the way you approach it there is a good idea.
Yeah, and you can niche in terms of like the person, right? So like the audience, so it can be like, you help health coaches, right? Like that's a very specific niche. Or you can niche down in terms of the solution like I do now, right? So now I help people with their group program. So it's anyone who wants to start a group program. It's not necessarily one industry or one type of, it's coaches and consultants, but I've helped copywriters, I've helped coaches of all industries, right? So you can niche in terms of those two ways, like either one of those. And I think that gives you a nice, like, it's concise, it's referable, but it's not like the blue eyes thing.
Yes. So somebody that's just getting started in this, would you suggest that they start their coaching program as one-on-one first and then grow it into group coaching?
Traditionally, yes, I do, because you want to have a foundation of how you're doing the methodology, right? So you want to give yourself some time to develop that methodology. If you came from the same thing in corporate background, you could just use that, right? If you have like extensive previous experience or anything like that, like there's definitely things that you could probably pull from. So that would be an exception to that. But the other piece of it is when you're scaling your business with a group program or even a course or anything like that, the price point at which you're going to sell your group program is lower than if you were to sell something one-on-one. And so the number of leads you would need to be more. So that means you're going to need to invest a little bit more. Does that make sense? So you want to have kind of like an established audience or some assets, if you will, before you go into doing the group coaching. And you can do that by starting your one-on-one practice and starting to build the audience and the assets as you go along.
So what if somebody already has a coaching program and they're doing one-on-one? What are some of those steps that they need to take to get from doing just the one-on-ones to the group?
Yeah, number one is develop your methodology. And number two is making sure that you have that referability factor. Sometimes if you're doing one-on-one, you can be a lot more general and like still get away with it. And then once they start really narrowing that down in their external message, then they can really start to seed and launch that group program.
So how do you decide what you're going to charge for either a one-on-one or a group program? Like how do you set that fee?
Okay.
I'm sure you get this question a lot,
I do.
which is why you're chuckling.
So, I am. So you want to decide how much money you want to make in that year. And then you want to decide how many hours you can coach, making sure you factor in some time for sales and marketing. And if you have someone on your team, that's great. They can take some of that load off, but making sure you have time for sales and marketing within your work week. And then you can divide the number of hours that you can coach by the total number of amount that you want to make that year. And then you divide it out. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So say I wanted to do 10 hours a week of coaching and I want to make $100,000, then I would take that 520, that 100,000 divided by 520, which is that 10 hours a week times the 52 weeks. So let's just say we took out 2 weeks for that I'm not going to be coaching or whatever, and we just had 50, so it'd be divided by 500. And that means I would want to set it at $200 an hour.
Exactly. And then you want to develop, okay, so it's about $200 an hour. My package includes, 10 1-hour sessions. So the package would be this. Right.
Okay. So when you were doing $50,000 a month and for just 15 clients, was that basically those 15 clients were each paying you $3,300, $3,333, if you will, if you didn't do the math, per month to coach with you, or were they by the hour?
Okay, maybe you misheard me. 15 clients, each paying $1,000.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Not 55. Oh, wow.
No. So you're paying. So basically, you had $15,000 a month coming in.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so they were each paying you $1,000 a month. And what did that include for that $1,000 a month?
One-on-one sessions, 1 hour each. At the time, my program was 1 per week. So I would meet with them once a week, hour.
And that was all one-on-one time.
Right. And then between calls, they could message me, text me, etc. Mm-hmm. So, in the beginning, I had more, less clients, more time. So like all of that was all okay, but I was getting to the point of overwhelm when I reached that 15 clients. So, and then also like you want to just over time assess your packages, right? So now my packages are every other week calls, because what I found over time was, okay, my clients are like still working on implementing the stuff we talked about last time, right? Mm-hmm. So they actually need less time between sessions, more time between sessions to implement. So you can kind of just gauge it that way. I slowly did go to every other week, but that was also a way of scaling. But in another way, it was also just a way of serving them, because there's no point saying on a session like, oh, okay, we still need to get these 3 things done. What's going on, right? We can do that over the phone or over text message if, because that is included in the package.
Mm-hmm. So when you decided that you wanted to do more group coaching to help yourself scale, how did your current clients that were paying you $1,000 a month for some one-on-one coaching, how did they react to, obviously there was probably a change in the amount that they were going to be paying each month. So how did they react to that and not being able to have that one-on-one with you?
Yeah, so I slowly did it, and I still do. So my group program has, like, you can purchase it with just the group sessions, or you can purchase it with one-on-one. So that's been really great for me, because I still get to support people at different areas wherever they are, right? So my now is $500 a month for just the group and $16.99 a month for group with the one-on-one calls. And I do have an accountability coach that comes and works with my clients in between my sessions with them, or, whether that be in the group setting only or with one-on-one. So she is there to hold people accountable, to meet with them, to make sure they're all staying on track with me. So that has been a great component and an addition to the team with getting people results, and making sure they stay in the room. And they feel supported because it's not just me. I think I had put so much pressure on myself to be the one, like the hero, like showing up for these people day after day after day. And like, that was exhausting. So having the team come on and help me has been really, really helpful. And So it's her, and I have another VA who supports inside the Facebook group.
Mm-hmm. And so I think one of the things that I'm looking at here, I'm just thinking of people that, that might already have a one-on-one coaching program, and they're going, well, if I go from one-on-one to group and I don't increase my clients, I'm going to be making less money. So what's the best way to help me reduce that risk?
Yeah. So you want to make a distinction between what is the difference for the client if they join at the group level versus the one-on-one level, right? So like, what would be the difference for them? And making sure that is clearly, explained when you're in the sales process with them. So for me, it's more accountability, more personalization, and a shortcut and I have, as part of the group, obviously tons of training videos and all that. And then we meet every other week in the call. So you might get 10 minutes with me on a group call every other week versus a whole hour with me. I know your business top to bottom, right? Like we can get a lot quicker results through one-on-one.
Mm-hmm. One of the other things in here too is about contracts. Do you have contracts in place for people who do your group or your one-on-one? Or is it usually just
absolutely? Yeah, it's a contract. So when I began, my contracts were only 6 months. And this year I decided I wanted to try 1 year because I had 2 clients that were with me for 3 years and their results were like unbelievable. And then I had some clients that would just stay for only a little bit of time and they got results, but I was like comparing to the 3-year clients and I'm like, there's so much more we could do. And so the contract now is 1 year and then they can renew as we feel collaboratively is best for them.
Mm-hmm. You had mentioned earlier some coaching training programs that can help you be a better coach. What are some of the ones, or is there one that you actually went through or ones that you would recommend?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went through one that was taught, it's called the Coaching Collective, I think, but it's basically taught by these 2 PhD psychologists and it was incredible. I learned so much. So I do have a degree in psychology, but at the time I was not thinking about how I would, like when I got my degree, it was like 5 years prior, at least maybe 6 or 7 by the time I became a coach and like really started practicing. But I didn't think about how I would be applying it to clients and to peak performance. And so when I went through official coach training, first of all, it's recognized by International Coaching Federation, which is, like a reputable coaching certification program. And secondly, they gave me skills with dealing with and really helping clients individually. So, what happens if a client tells you about a traumatic experience in the past, right? How do you handle that? How do you support them? How do you diffuse the situation? How do you move forward from that? Mm-hmm. So things like that, they really just empowered me to confidently move forward with each of my clients.
So when you have a coaching client that comes in, whether it be one-on-one or group, do both of them get access to your online portal with like the video training and stuff like that? Or does it depend on which program they go into?
Yeah, right now I just have the one program so that they can have the foundation of knowledge. So one of the things I found with one-on-one is I was repeating the information side of things, right? Like, so, you're a consultant too, right? So like there's stuff that right? Mm-hmm. That like you don't want to have to repeat that stuff over and over again. So I put those things into a training videos. And if we're in a one-on-one session and I discover there's a gap of knowledge, I can say, go watch this one specific video. Or, this is the video that will address that specific problem if they have a question on Messenger, right? Or in the Facebook group.
Mm-hmm. And one of the other things that I was thinking about here is, somebody that might be, listening, they might like, I've really been interested in possibly coaching. I'm not really sure which direction to go. What's the best way for them to possibly maybe reach out to you and see if there's some sort of, resource or something like that you can help them with?
Yeah. So you can find me. I have a podcast. It's called The Impact Driven Entrepreneur. That's one thing. And I have tons of resources there on how to market, how to sell, and of course, like how to kind of do that, especially if you have other things going on, like I had with my kids. And the other thing is just reach out to me. I'm on all the socials, very active. So that would be the best way.
Well, I don't have any further questions for you. Do you have any final thoughts before we leave?
No, I think, if anyone really wants to help others and, make a difference in their life and see those ripples of impact, a coaching program would be a great way for you to start seeing that.
Great. Well, I really appreciate you taking some time, Mariana, to be with us here today and sharing with us your impact that you're making in the world and the world of entrepreneurship and putting together these groups and helping people really scale to be able to impact even more lives. And look forward to having you on a future episode and diving into this a little bit more as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mariana. Hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you for listening to the Tough Decisions Network. Be sure to visit toughdecisions.net to gain access to show notes for this episode and to join our free weekly entrepreneur email where we will send you news about the latest technology for your business, inspiring quotes, and the latest books for entrepreneurs. That's toughdecisions.net.